It was another wild weekend in the divisional round in the NFL, and now we're down to 4 teams. Let's break down how we got there with this recap of divisional weekend in the NFL. So, the divisional round is now in the books. It is time for the conference championship, and it was a wild journey to get there. Let's break it all down here. And the first takeaway, I guess, from from the divisional round weekend was the importance of home field advantage. I don't know if that game is played in Buffalo, if the Bills and Broncos game is that much dissimilar, but I do wonder if things would have snowballed on Josh Allen in that way if Bills Mafia was behind him. San Francisco, Seattle could have been played on the moon, and that wouldn't have changed anything. But New England, Houston, the way that Houston defense played, if that game is played at a neutral site where it's not snowing, if that game is being played in Houston, I don't think there's a way that the Texans are losing that game. And same thing goes with Chicago against the Rams. I get the Rams end up winning that football game, but I don't think we need overtime if it's not in the cold and the gross. And so this was a win for the regular season in the National Football League. So many times we hear, just get in the tournament, just get in the tournament. And that's true. Like, that's step one, and you don't want to just empty the entire gas tank and, oh, thank God we got here. Now we can ease up a little bit. Obviously, this is now where the biggest games are played, but so much we heard in the regular season and have heard for years. Oh, well, the Chiefs can just turn it on, flip that switch, and there they go. Didn't even make it. Same thing goes with the Ravens. And then we heard, well, the Eagles, they should have tanked for an easier matchup to work their way through. I think what we are seeing now is that, I mean, maybe there are a couple of teams that could play on the margins, and we'll see. The Rams could go out, win a road game, and off to the championship they go. But it's still real, especially if you live in an extreme climate, either on the East Coast with it being a little bit colder, or if you're a warmer West Coast team. Home field advantage felt very, very advantageous, we'll say, this weekend. Let's go into the first game. Obviously, this one was a weird one. Buffalo with a loss against the Denver Broncos in overtime. This was obviously a noteworthy game. The last one in the Sean McDermott era, you have Josh Allen, who has just a horrendous game numbers-wise. And look, like, I wasn't able to watch this game live, saw all the rhetoric around it and everything, and then watched the game after the fact. It wasn't I thought he looked like CJ Stroud from all the tweets and everything, and it wasn't great. Like, obviously it was a bad game, but it wasn't like he was a low functioning idiot out there or anything like that. But you can't have a game that bad. You cannot make that. The one at the end of the first half is it's inexcusable. That's one where in a couple of years, when Mendoza is playing in his first playoff game, God willing, that he just, like, if he does that, you know what? Rookie in his first playoff game, but you got to get that out of there as quick as possible. It can't happen from the dude who has won more games than any other quarterback who's never played in a Super Bowl. You cannot make those sorts of mistakes. So, an inexcusable game for Josh Allen. You cannot make those sorts of mistakes. But I did not come away from this game overly impressed with anything that the Broncos did. To have that many turnovers and still need a game-tying drive just to force overtime, and then need some help from the officials at the end of it to finally put that exclamation mark on and get the victory. This was not an overly impressive Denver Broncos win. If Josh Allen doesn't have the worst playoff game of his life, then this is probably still a Bills weekend. It's still probably a Sean McDermott coached football team, and we're still rolling on that way. I didn't see a whole lot from the Broncos. I was like, no. That was a great performance from them. Now, it's still a good football team, and even with the Bo Nix injury, which is just heartbreaking, it's really weird to have two teams crying after a game, but this was a weird one, and a really difficult one for the Broncos to, I think, kind of digest. But I still think this is a good team that has their chance now going into the title game, even with Bo Nix not in the lineup. The referee discussion. around this has obviously been pretty loud as well. I will say initially I thought it was a catch. I can see where you say that it wasn't because like in my mind he has the ball like in two hands and up against him and then he gets hit down on the ground. But the argument being, well, he has the two hands here, but there's one hand between him and the football. So you can kind of understand where that's coming from. The one thing I totally agree with is that it should have been looked at more. I don't know how there isn't a lengthy review process on that. And I'm not one who likes lengthy review processes, but I was really surprised that there wasn't more going on there. The two defensive pass interferences at the end of the game were really soft, I thought, especially for an overtime game. But I also, like this whole thing, I don't think if you're Buffalo, you can say, well, the referees really screwed us on our fifth turnover of the game. Maybe at that point, it's not the ref's fault, you know? So I get where some people are coming from with that, but the refereeing is not why Buffalo lost this game. San Francisco taking on Seattle. There's not much to talk about here. This was about as ass-kicky as it gets. Seattle was dominant literally from the first play of the game. There's not much you can do with that. I think it's good for Darnold to just get that experience and have a big game, a playoff game, go well, even if it was against a group that would have maybe lost to Indiana from the national championship game on Monday night. But so maybe getting some of that momentum helps. But yeah, there's not a lot to break down from this game. Seattle took care of business, and it does kind of make you wonder about how bad the Eagles looked against San Francisco the week prior. But we don't have to re-legislate that. Up next, Houston taking on the New England Patriots. This one, again, like, I know there are times where it's like, oh, the quarterback cost him the game. It's like, well, did he? This one, there is no question. There is no other answer than the reason the New England Patriots are playing this weekend and the Texans aren't is because of the Houston Texans quarterback, CJ Stroud. The turnovers were awful. But even that, there were very few good, comfortable, on-target, on-time throws. It was bad. And I get that the weather sucked, but this is a sport where the biggest games of the year are played in January and February. So either go 17-0 in the regular season and lock in that home field advantage, or you're going to have to play in some bad weather games. And the fact that CJ Stroud had what will easily be the worst quarterback performance of the playoffs and one of the worst quarterbacking performances I have ever seen. Big game, not a big game, exhibition game, regular season game, game out on the playground. One of the worst performances you will see from a quarterback. They were still in that game. They still had an opportunity, and it is still to the point where it's like if you just had Nico and Dalton Schultz there, maybe that field goal turns into a touchdown at some point and it just gets some kind of momentum going. But again, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, whoever you want out there, there's no one who was catching some of those passes from Stroud. He threw a pass that was so bad that his tight end adjusting to it blew out his knee. So, like, it was awful. And honestly, I think this puts a lot of pressure now on Stroud for next season because he had a really good rookie year and now has had two subpar seasons after that. And now, when we have seen, like, Nico Collins is a high-level receiver. D'Amico Ryans is a really good coach, I think, obviously. And that defense is championship caliber. The fact they only lost this game by a couple of possessions and CJ Stroud had that type of a performance, the type of performance that has people wondering if Davis Mills should come into the game, I think shows that that's a championship caliber defense. So this is on Stroud now. They do need some offensive line help, but this is on Stroud to get this team now where it needs to go, and he needs to be the guy that they thought he was after his rookie season. For New England, obviously, like the defense steps up, I guess. And for the second week in a row, they got better as the game went on. Vrabel is saying something at halftime, man, or they're seeing something, and they are a team that is able to adjust in the aggressive ways that fans want you to coming out of that 15-minute timeout that is halftime. But you saw, like, 2 weeks ago against the Chargers, we were talking about, hey, offensive line held up for LA better than we thought it would, and then it got demolished in the second half. Well, this one, like, again, it was bad throughout, but it felt at some point as the game went on that Stroud was just drowning out there, and a lot of that is on him, but like Carlton Davis turned into Ty Law for a game, and this defense was pretty smothering. Again, no Collins, Gonzalez can just kind of roam around and now lock down guys who are lesser than some of the other dudes he's locked down this season. We'll see. I think it's an interesting matchup now, even with Stidham against the receiving core that the Broncos have. But yeah, I mean, good for them. For the second week in a row, May was okay, but not spectacular. He didn't get it going as much with the run game. Again, the defense for the Texans had a lot to say about that. Will Campbell is not helping the arm length debate at all. That this is 2 weeks in a row. He has been absolutely turnstiled. And the play of the offensive line is the reason why some people still think Denver could be a live dog, even with Jarrett Stidham this week. Lastly, NFC title game. We'll have the Rams in it after a wild game against the Chicago Bears. And like just everything you would want from a playoff game, right? Like some really good defensive plays and some really good defensive football, and then a bonkers fourth quarter into a wild overtime. And like heartbreak for the Bears, the miscommunication at the end is a killer. I know a lot of people getting on DJ Moore for not running that route out, and I would be among those, but he's also not expecting that pass at that point in the game. I think you still, at that point, this season, the way everything's going with Caleb, you kind of have to understand this dude is keeping things alive as long as he possibly can. He just, on a 2-point conversion, or no, not even on a 2-point conversion, but on a fourth down and 6 from the 13, he threw a 52-yard Hail Mary, just ran back to the midfield and heaved one up. So I don't think you can give up on any route when you're playing with that guy in overtime in a playoff game. But miscommunication there at the very best, I guess you could say, for the Bears. But Caleb showed he's that dude. He has 2 of the best throws, probably the 2 best throws in the playoffs. It's not perfect, but it's exciting, if nothing else. And obviously for the Bears, they have found their game changer. They have the weapons around them now. Maybe we need to protect a little bit better, but still, the offensive line held up pretty well, even with some injuries on it. Defensively, I thought they played a good game as well. This is a team that is for real now. Like this feels like just the beginning for the Chicago Bears. But the thing that you feel really good about, obviously, the Bears had a number of guys step up on the offensive side. But defensively, some of these guys just played their absolute hearts out in this game. Like the secondary was so much better than they've been during the year. You look talent for talent, the Rams should have won this game, and they did. And this is why you have Matthew Stafford out there. Because even with Caleb Williams making the craziest plays you've seen in your life, and even with that defense stepping up in the way that it did, this dude is still out here coming up with big throws when they needed him to. Was it his best game? Absolutely it was not. But did he come up with just enough plays to get them through? Yeah, he did. It has been survive in advance for the first couple of weeks. That's kind of what you do have to have. We've seen, started this segment off talking about it. Home field advantage means more than some of us are giving it credit in 2026 in the National Football League. And this team has had to go on the road to Carolina, on the road to Chicago, and win these games. It's not always going to be pretty, even with teams on the road. This is another tough road test, but I don't think we should hold the lack of style points against them in these last couple, because we have seen what the road has done to other teams in the playoffs here so far. I mean, they were the best looking road team of the weekend. So even with it being not all that impressive, I think you still have to give them some style points given the location of it all. But another part of it, like this defense is really exciting. And I know that's been talked about a lot. It's a young defense. It's an exciting defense. It's very athletic. Caleb Williams was making all those crazy plays because he kind of had to. They had him on the run a lot. There's a lot to be excited about with this LA Rams squad. But so that's my thoughts. What about you guys? Hit myself in the face with the hoodie string here. What about you guys? What was the biggest takeaway of the weekend for you from the NFL playoff slate? Let me know in the comments, or if you're listening in podcast form, hit me up on social media and we can chat about it there. And while you're doing all of that, share this video with your football fan friends. Hit that share button. It's right by the like button that you should be hitting also, and it makes a fun little thing when you hit it. Just try it right now. See, it's kind of cool. So, do that, share this with your football fan friends, and we can keep the football conversation going all throughout the postseason as we wind down with just 3 games left in the NFL season.